Hey everyone, Boomslangg here, and today we are going to be talking about Horizon Zero Dawn, something I am extremely excited about if you haven't already known, but even more so today because I finally have gotten hands-on time with the game itself. I got to play it at the Sony booth where they showed a gameplay demo and then gave us about 10-15 minutes to play the game. Although it was a small section of the demo, it wasn't the full demo that we saw in the gameplay. It was only 2 objectives. We had to override one of the Broadheads, which you see in one of the demos, and still stealth kill one of the Watchers that's in the area. And those were the only 2 enemies in the entire demo. It was a very small area, but it was still a lot of fun. So I'm going to just talk about kind of what happened, what I found out, what I thought was really fun. And also I'm going to be making a breakdown video of the actual demo, but I held off on that because I wanted to see if I could actually get hands-on time with the game. That way the breakdown video of what you see on screen is a little bit more realistic, and I can kind of describe what's going on because I know how it feels. All right, anyways, the gameplay of Horizon Zero Dawn is unbelievably smooth. Watching it in the demos on at the Sony conference, I was like, okay, this looks pretty smooth. This is it looks really good, but you never can really tell until you actually play the game. So I can tell you that it's like butter. It is so smooth. I'm pretty sure that it's running at 60 frames per second. That's right, you heard it here first. I'm almost positive Horizon Zero Dawn is running at 60 frames per second. Now, I don't know if this is a E3 thing, that it's only for the demo. Hopefully it stays for the full game. I think it would be absolute suicide to release a demo to the public at 60 frames per second and then when the full launch of the game comes out, drop it down to 30 frames per second. I don't understand why they would do that. Crazier things have happened in the gaming industry, so we'll just have to wait and see. But that's the reason it was so amazingly smooth. It's very responsive, and that's kind of where the 60 frames per second kind of helped it out. It was extremely responsive and very snappy. I had no problems acquiring targets, no problems selecting my inventory, moving around. Everything was instantaneously reacting to me. There was no delay, no lag, no input lag or anything like that. So the most responsive RPG I've ever played. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys have played more RPGs than me, but the ones that I have played have been kind of sluggish, but it takes it a little time to process what you're actually doing. Okay, so let's talk about the controls. L1 would pull up your weapon wheel, and then you could select the different kinds of bows that you would have, the different kinds of there were 4 types of bows in the playable demo. Now, in the actual demo on stage that they had, there was a few more things which I'm going to talk about in a later video. But we had a regular bow we had regular arrows, fire arrows, and shock arrows, I do believe. And then we had the rope caster, which you could use to tie down the machines in the world or set like traps where they would run through it. We had a shock rope caster where we could actually set traps that would shock. And then we had the slingshot bombs, and these bombs had ice, fire, and electricity, all of which were really fun to play. Each one had a different use, a different thing would happen if you shot them. It was really fun because I used the ice slingshot to actually freeze broadheads and take them down using that. I thought that was really fun. All right, so L2 will aim your weapon. So when you have a bow, you hold down L2 and actually zoom in, aim, and that's typical. That's in every kind of any kind of weapon game that has projectile weapons. R1 is the light attack with the spear that you see in the gameplay. Tapping R2 is the heavy move, and I'll tell you why. It was just tapping it. X is to jump, square is to crouch, circle is to roll, and triangle is to interact with the environment, like overriding the machines, mounting and dismounting, things of that nature. And the D-pad was used for the consumables, to call your mount, and to drop mines, which you saw in the gameplay demos, where you can craft mines and then you press, actually you can cycle through the different D-pad that's options that you want it to be. So whichever one you would cycle through and then press down, and then it would activate whatever, or maybe it was up. It was up or down on the D-pad. Doesn't make much of a difference. And then that would actually drop the bomb or consume your health pack or things like that. Now, holding R2 would charge your bow. Basically, it would draw your bow back so you could fire it. releasing it would then fire the arrow. So pretty simple. The longer you hold it, the more powerful the arrow is going to be, things like that. Now there are a separate set of controls for the mounts, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. But first off, like I said earlier, it was a small demo area with just broadheads and watchers, but you can also use the bushes for stealth, which we've seen that aspect. So that is still in the game, and it is still very active. It's actually so much a part of the game that when you move into the bushes, you actually get a UI indicator or a HUD indicator telling you that you are in stealth and that you are hidden from the eyes of the machines. Has a sound indicator too to tell you how much sound you're making. So you actually have to think about how fast you're moving in these bushes trying to ambush these machines. It was a really cool feature. The vertical traversal in this game, like climbing rocks, climbing the sides of hills, things like that, is a lot faster than in Uncharted. Now, when I first saw this, I was like, okay, this looks very similar to Uncharted. It's kind of slower. It's still looks good, still probably feels pretty solid, but it was actually a lot faster than I thought it would be. I walked up to the edge of this cliff face and pressed X a couple times, and I was at the top of the hill relatively fast. Now, granted, it wasn't that large of a cliff, but I was surprised at how quickly I was able to jump up. And also, there was a zip line at the very top of the hill, but the demo ended before I could actually successfully zip line down. What I needed to do was jump and press and hold square in order to zip line down, but not knowing what I was supposed to do, I jumped, tapped square, started to grab it, and then just fell to the ground. And then I started to try and do it again, but then they said the demo's over. So there's a zipline mechanic in the game. Even though it was a small demo area, there were a lot of harvestable plants in the environment to use for crafting materials. Now on to overriding, which is the way that you take control of these machines and use them as the mount. It performs the exact same way as it did in the demo. Simply tie down a broadhead, get close to it, and then press triangle, use your staff, override it, basically hack this machine, rewire it, and then you have the option to ride it, and it follows you around until, I guess, it dies, or yeah, I guess until it dies. I didn't really find out what happened after it. The mount also controls very well. Now, granted, it's a lot more sluggish than it is when you're controlling Aloy, but that's just because it's a bigger machine, so it feels bigger. And when you tap X, it makes you gallop. And when I first tried it, I was like, all right, I'm gonna press L3, and I thought that was gonna work. It took me a few minutes to figure out how you actually make this thing sprint. And I thought it was interesting that they decided to go with tapping X to gallop. And you can use all of your weapons from the top of the mount. But before I talk about my favorite feature of the mount, I wanna talk about the machines themselves. Now, the broadheads were protected by the watchers. You could sneak attack, or you could use a full assault. One watcher, though, would call all of them in if you attacked one and did not kill it before it warned everybody else. Dodging and rolling in the actual combat, though, when the watchers would come and try to attack you, felt really natural and intuitive. Like, I didn't have any kinds of problems dodging out of their attacks, coming back in, counterattacking, and things like that. And that goes hand in hand with the combat. The combat, like, it felt very smooth, very fluid, and it was a lot of fun. You could also use your light attack by jumping down from on top of enemies, but you couldn't do that with a heavy attack. So you could actually, if you wanted to, just press X, press R1, and she would slam it down, kind of like Ratchet and Clank when he slams his wrench down. Even though it was a short combat sequence, it was still a lot of fun to play. Now, the broadheads were a lot less interesting than the watchers. The broadheads just ran away in a herd, but it was kind of cool to see them actually stick together and not just start spreading out and running all over the place. They all stayed in the same herd and all ran in the same direction. Speaking of broadheads, let's go back to my favorite thing about the mounts, and that is the broadhead has its own attack when you're riding it. By pressing R1, you will basically rear up on your hind legs and Mike Tyson punch anything that is in front of you. You do that for a couple of seconds and then it falls back down. Now, this was really a surprise to me and something I thought was awesome. I was really, really excited when I first saw it. I was like grinning ear to ear when I was like, this thing can freaking punch people. So I grabbed my broadhead, chased after all the other broadheads in the herd, and started punching all of them and literally killed them within a few hits. That was when I was like, okay, this is awesome. And the broadhead having an attack makes me think that other machines not only can be overridden, but that they might have more attacks than the actual broadhead, since the L1, L2, and R2 buttons were not used with the broadhead mount. Now, since those were tied to Aloy's attacks, I figured those would be tied to the same attacks as a machine. So I'm hoping and wishing that we are going to be able to override Thunderjaws or anything of that sort. Now, it might not be machines quite that big, but if so, I bet they're going to be a lot harder to override. It's like you're going to have to use more ropes. You're going to have to do previous damage to them so you can get their health down before you can actually use the ropes. But I think that would be a really cool feature. Now, some of them might be overpowered, but this is getting kind of into the speculation. But I do think that we're going to be able to have other mounts besides the Broadhead. But if not, I'm totally going to be fine with that because the Broadhead was actually a lot of fun to ride. We'll just have to see how it plays out. But I'm really hoping, I really want to ride a Thunderjaw. Overall, it was a really solid demo. It was a bit limited. There were very few machines, and like I said, it was a small area. I kind of would have liked to see more features of the game, some things that they had like in that full demo. I would have liked to be able to actually explore the world, see some of the objectives in the environment. But it was very limited, and I mean they're still working on this game, so it's still in development. But overall, it definitely exceeded my expectations. It was a lot smoother than I expected it to be. The combat was a lot quicker. The overall controls of the game were a lot snappier. If they can maintain this feeling for the game at launch, Guerrilla Games is going to have a hit on their hands. If the story is cohesive and the crafting is extensive and the customization is deep, then this game is going to be something that everyone is going to need to pick up. This is going to be a game that's going to start selling PlayStations. But we can't say. I don't know if this game is going to be good or bad. I know I just definitely had a lot of fun with the demo today. So we'll just have to wait and see what they announce in the future. Horizon Zero Dawn is coming February 28th, 2017, so it's a little ways away. They still have a lot of stuff to do on it. But anyways, that was my hands-on impressions of the game when I actually got to play it for about 15 minutes today. Really enjoyed it, and like I said earlier in the video, I'm going to be making a breakdown video of the actual gameplay that you saw at the Sony conference. There was a lot more information going on in that one, so now I'm going to be able to give you guys a better breakdown of that since I've actually played it, and I think it's just going to be an overall more informative video for you guys. So hopefully you enjoyed this hands-on impressions, basically just talk about the game. Thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more Horizon Zero Dawn content, and until next time, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.